From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. In today's show, Mark visits with Cody Bills of Farmers Business Network. I talk with Trent Brisby of Pioneer about their new Fungicide Timing Solution, and Dustin discusses the USDA and downsizing buildings with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. I'm Riley Smith, one of your hosts for today, and joining me now is Dustin Huffman. And Dustin, what a beautiful day it is to start off this week.
Well, for you, I mean, I know you like it when it's hot and whatever. And it's like going to be like, 85 or 89 degrees today. But yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, Saturday we got the cold side of spring. It was a decent temperature, but the wind was raw. Then you had yesterday. It was absolutely gorgeous, a picture perfect day. And then today it's going to be, mid-July weather. So I don't know if Mother Nature's still off of her meds, if she's still going to get them dialed in or not. But, that's got to be, while it's still good, I mean, gets farmers a chance to get out and stuff. This back and forth, the cold snaps to hot weather, back and forth all between, it kind of throws things off to try to get yourself in a rhythm, which I know we're at the end of March and we still got a little bit of time. We don't have to worry quite yet. But, our farmers are chomping at the bit to get going, want to apply the anhydrous. And of course, with the soil temperatures, being bounced back and forth by the air temperatures, it just throws things off.
Yeah, I was going to say with the soil temps, you could have all of those nice days, but then if you have two pretty cold days mixed in there, it makes it tricky to figure out when exactly you want to be out planting because those soil temps aren't going to match what the, air temps are maybe most of the time.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. In fact, we just looked at yesterday's soil temperatures. We're back down to the mid to low 40s in some spots. Now, we do see mid 50s in the extreme southwestern part of the state, but also, like I said, low 40s in the northeast part of the state. So, I mean, it's really hard to get that, locked in when it's bouncing around. I mean, a couple of days ago, we saw it in the mid to upper 50s everywhere. And so, I mean, obviously, once you get anhydrous in at 55 degrees, it starts to work. And, you can't help it if it's 55 degrees one day and then 43 the next. It's just the way the ball rolls, and you hope for the best the nitrogen takes hold. But again, it'll still get moving. We'll get through this. And it's just, like I said, she's just back and forth lately.
I really feel like that early planting window is going to happen very quick. Because, we have that bit of dryness. There's not a lot of moisture in the ground right now. And I think that's just going to make it to where once those farmers are able to get into the fields, I think we're just going to see extremely fast progress. And we know, we've been talking with farmers across the state. We've been talking with, our representatives across the state who have been visiting around as well. And farmers are really, really chomping at the bit. And last year we saw great benefits from planting earlier. With those yields later on. I just think that this year is going to be one of those years where planting happens in the blink of an eye. It feels like it gets faster each and every year. We'll go ahead and take a look at the markets now. Mark Magnuson, before he was able to head off to Slater to see Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Nag, visited with Greg McBride of Allendale to cover the grain markets.
Joined today by Greg McBride of Allendale for the opening market discussion. Greg, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Well, we've seen some back and forth trade. Started out with a little bit of strength in the corn, beans, and wheat last night. Beans were able to hold that strength. Corn and wheat did back off. They added some additional rains in the Great Plains. That pulled the KC wheat down about 7 to 8 cents. At worst, it was like 10 or 11 cents, and then it's come back a little bit since the day session has started. So that is the push and the pull when it comes to the corn market right now. The beans are reacting to the strong RVO numbers that were released on Friday. You got bean oil up to 2 cents right now. We are following some of the strength in the energy markets as well. As we go into this USDA report tomorrow, the quarterly stocks report doesn't look like it's anything too menacing. Kind of keeps us at that 2.2 billion in carryout for the corn. The soybean side of things is even less cumbersome. We're still talking about maybe around 350 million in carryout. Now, this is just a stocks report. It's the measure of the size of the pile as of March 1st. So it's not an ending stocks report like we'll get on the 9th, but it is kind of an idea of what we may see adjustments for when the WASDE report comes out on April 9th. On the corn side of things, the big thing that we always watch besides the acres, which gets all the press, it is the stocks report. It is going to be something where we could see adjustments to feed and residual. We know that our usage as of the January for our December 1st report that happened in January was extremely strong, even though we had a massive crop last year. So this is something where if it continues, the usage continues to stay strong in the second quarter here, we should be looking at maybe lightening up a little bit on some things. But overall, a lot of unknown going into this report. Seasonally, we do tend to start to come out of this thing and move higher, but some of the data will make us have to rethink things depending on what happens tomorrow.
How did the RVO announcement compare to the industry's best guesses?
It was actually a little bit better than what we were expecting. I mean, you pretty well got what we were expecting. It was everything that they had been talking about, especially with what they had said at the end of February, pretty well came true. It was just one of those things where we may have already priced a lot of this in. So you saw a negative reaction on Friday's close. You saw the beans at one point down about 18 to 20 cents. They finished about 14 lower. Bean oil didn't know what to do. It was up about 3/4 of a cent before the announcement. Then it was down. Then it was back up, and then it finished the day down a little bit. So it was everything we wanted. It does indicate that we're going to continue to see a strong crush and a strong push into biofuels over the next few years here. Obviously, that is something that the industry wants to see. The other side of it, the ethanol side, no real major changes there, but the biofuel side with respect to bean oil and crush is a rosy outlook for us. The problem at this point just becomes how much of this could have already been priced in, and does it leave any additional upside based off of that without some sort of a weather hiccup in South America or export issues out of South America, or even our own production as we get started with planting here over the next few weeks.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you. You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Riley Smith joining today, filling in for Mark Magnuson as he is out in the field. And Dustin now visiting with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst about another fellow Iowan from Cass County who is awaiting confirmation for his position in the USDA, and also talking about the building sales with the USDA.
All right. And then finally today, we're going to be hearing about Glenn Smith. I know he's going through the confirmation process to be another USDA undersecretary. You want to talk about that situation?
Absolutely. I am a huge fan of Glenn Smith. Of course, I've known Glenn and his family for years and years and years. They do farming up in Cass County, just to the north of where I live in Montgomery County. A really great man. He has served in various administrations through the years. He's a farmer, but also has served in various capacities here in Washington, D.C. He is going to be a great member of this administration. So he is making his way through the confirmation process, and that should be happening very, very soon. We should get a vote on the floor of the Senate, and all will be well in Washington, D.C., because we have another Iowan serving at the federal level.
Well, that definitely would sound good. And speaking of the USDA, I mean, you're talking a little bit about, have been talking about in the past too, about restructuring some things there. We've talked back in the past about office buildings not being used to their capacity. You want to talk about the update that's going on there?
Yes, this is something I have been hounding on USDA for a very long time. And it's not just USDA, it's across the federal government, the unused office space that we have. But right here in Washington, D.C., we have a glaring example of what it is to waste money on an office building that right now with the USDA South Ag building, is only 1/3 occupied. And if you are familiar with the South Ag building, this is a behemoth of a building. It is nearly one city block big, and it's only 1/3 occupied. This building has about $1.7 billion of deferred maintenance on it, and it costs us hundreds of millions of dollars every year in upkeep, even though it's largely vacant. So, working with Secretary Rollins at USDA, we have decided that the building should be sold to save taxpayer dollars and to bring a little income into the federal government. And so it will eventually make its way onto the auction block. It does have to go through some checks with the GSA, but we're really excited about this opportunity. And I think it's important because what we're seeing now is a move to restructure USDA and put more of those jobs out across the United States into the regions where they will be better representing the constituencies that they serve. So I'm excited. I think Brooke Rollins is doing absolutely the right thing by getting rid of this largely vacant and extremely costly building.
All right. Well, Senator, we thank you so much for the time and giving us an update. And of course, we have the Women in Ag Day being marked on Saturday and National Ag Day next week, Tuesday. Anything you want to send to our farmers here in your closing comments?
Well, God bless our farmers for feeding and fueling not just the great United States of America, but the world as well. You are loved and appreciated by all of us.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Time now to run down those basis numbers for you here on Iowa Ag Matters for this Monday, the 30th of March. I'm Dustin Huffman. Only seeing two elevators make any kind of change here to the markets. Let's take a look at where they're bidding today. Let's start at ADM Burlington. They're 20 cents under on corn, $4.41. Soybeans, 45 cents under, $11.22. Cargill Eddyville, 21 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.40. New Co-op Algona, 45 cents under on corn, $4.16. Soybeans, 77 cents under, cash bid $10.90. Ag State Sheldon, 30 cents under on corn, $4.31. Soybeans, 86 cents under at $10.81. Ag State Elta, 45 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.16. Soybeans, 81 cents under at $10.86. Cargill and Cedar Rapids, 15 cents under on corn, $4.46. Soybeans are 25 cents under with a cash price of $11.42. Five Star Co-op Nashua, 30 cents under on corn, $4.31. Soybeans, 66 cents under at $11.01. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 28 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.33. ADM Des Moines, 40 cents under on soybeans, their cash price $11.27. New Co-op Red Oak, 35 cents under on corn, $4.26. Soybeans, 73 cents under at $10.94. Mid-Iowa Cooperative in Green Mountain, they're 48 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.13. Soybeans, 85 cents under at $10.82. New Co-op Sheraton, 37 cents under on corn, $4.24. Soybeans, 73 cents under at $10.94 for the cash price. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 43 cents under on corn, $4.18. Soybeans, 70 cents under, $10.97. At New Co-op in Glidden, they're 44 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.17. Soybeans, 75 cents under at $10.92. Innovative Ag Farley, 46 cents under on corn, $4.15. Soybeans, 74 cents under at $10.93 for the cash bid. And at Cargill Muscatine, they're 22 cents under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans, 52 cents under at $11.15. And they will be closed on Friday for Good Friday. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this message.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and Riley Smith is going to be talking now with the folks at Pioneer, talking about a new fungicide tool they have to help eliminate more of the guesswork out of deciding when it's time to apply some of that crop protection. Riley?
I'm here with Trent Brisby of Pioneer Corteva, and very exciting news to have a new tool to really help with the timing of applications throughout the crop season. Just tell us first off about this tool and what exactly is providing for farmers those benefits.
Yeah, really excited to launch the Fungicide Timing Solution. We were able to launch that yesterday. So I'll talk a little bit. There's 3 components of the solution. It starts with the foundation of Pioneer seed. Then we have our new AI data science tool, Fungicide Timing tool. I'll get in that in a second. And then the last component is our Forcevo fungicide, which is Corteva's new 3 mode of action fungicide. So the tool itself, I talked about its AI machine learning model. Pretty excited to talk through this. We're helping growers solve when and where to spray and hit the optimal timing, giving us great product efficacy of our seed and our crop protection, as well as giving us the most consistent yield and highest yield and return on investment. So really excited to give that. We're trying to help growers hit the optimal window, and we're doing this by predicting the onset of disease. We really don't want you to see disease in the field. Once it's there, it doesn't go away, right? So we're predicting the onset. We're using things like our Pioneer seed trait scores for our disease risks. We're bringing in grower management practices. And then we have these AI machine learning that helps us with leaf wetness, as well as disease risk models. They work with their Pioneer sales agency. We're able to give them those recommendations field by field. That's what's really nice. And then we just help you when and where to spray.
So what's really interesting about that is I feel like there's been a lot of conversation recently, not just on maybe fungicide, but like nutrient application as well, of the timing being so critical to making sure it's there when it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're doing a lot of guesswork to see, it's like, well, I think this is the right time for that. Well, now you guys have a tool that's like, I know this is the right time for that, right?
Yep, that's spot on. You know, typically I would tell you that a lot of applications happen as I call rule of thumb or calendar applications. So we hear a lot of 50% brown silk. It's July. I see an airplane flying, right? My neighbor just told me about it at university, somebody like that. Now we're able to really use data and technology and data from your farm, right? That has planted data that you're collecting and using that. We're able to use our newest AI technology, bringing all that together. And when we do that, we're providing the growers a 5 bushel yield advantage, just changing their timing, right? So this last year was probably one of the biggest disease years that we've seen. Some of our agronomists told us in their entire career. We had 4 different disease hitting. Some hit the same spot at similar times. And so if we can predict that and get out in front of it, keep that plant healthier longer, that's really important. That's what's given us that 5+ bushel yield advantage.
So you mentioned as well kind of that 3-pronged comprehensive program there, obviously starting with the Pioneer seed being that foundation. When we go on to the tool itself then, we're looking at the farmer has that information, goes through the Pioneer rep, and then comes back to them, right?
Yes. So we have a really cool tool called Granular Insights that our Pioneer sales agencies use. We're able to upload that data and information, and they've got nice reports so they can go back and work with their grower and show them which fields are triggering or upcoming spray. And that's really what allows them to know where to go and when to go.
And I noticed too, we were looking through that pamphlet to kind of discuss that. And it's very interesting that it shows the different windows and kind of how you're approaching that, because sometimes you can get all of this data and not really know as much what to do with it.
Right.
But having it laid out like this, now that's really easy and actionable to have to make those decisions pretty easily, right?
Very much. So as we're looking at the weather, we're looking at it hourly, we're looking at 14-day forecast. And so this tool is constantly working in the background, right? You have 1,000 things that you got to do as a grower and things you're checking in on. We want to make that very seamless and very easy for you. We really want you to have a great relationship and time with your Pioneer rep. So we're constantly monitoring. And as soon as the conditions are right, now we're starting to trigger. It's like, hey, based on our 14-day forecast, we might have an upcoming spray soon.
And then, of course, with that Forcevo fungicide, being able to round out that program, and there's the solution to the problem you've identified, right?
Yeah, really excited about Forcevo. So Corteva's newest 3-way mode of action. It's given us a 30-day residual control with our novel SDHI. That's been really key. I mean, I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to people this week at Commodity, and that just keeps coming up That 30 days is phenomenal. Typically industry standards about 21. So getting almost 9 extra days, that's huge when you see a disease here like we've had. We're covering the main diseases, right? We've got northern corn leaf blight, gray leaf spot, and then you get the big ones everybody's talking about, tar spot and southern rust. So we're covering all those main diseases that growers are concerned about.
All right, lots of great information today. For anyone who can't be here at Commodity Classic and would like to learn more about this, where can they go for that information?
Great question. So they can always go to their Pioneer sales agency. They can help them with our True Choice program, which is just extra discounts on their crop protection. They can learn about Forcevo. We also have our pioneer.com. Click on tools and you can go right to the new fungicide timing landing page. And then you can click out to Forcevo, click out to Pioneer, and learn a lot of great information.
All right, Trent, thanks so much for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, Dustin, earlier on in the show, we talked about the soil temperatures that we've seen on the map for the state, and already we've seen an update to that, right?
Yeah, that we have. The numbers I was talking about earlier in the day, or early in the show rather, came from the end of the day yesterday. The new forecast came out, and they're talking a lot better conditions for doing some anhydrous application. We're talking the coldest one, maybe about 55 degrees in the extreme northwestern corner of the state, all the way down to all the way up to 65 degrees in the southwest corner of the state. So the average is basically low 60s right now is what we're seeing. So definitely give me some good days to get out there and get that anhydrous applied. Obviously, if you haven't already, and the conditions, like we said before, it is dry, so it means we should see some decent field working conditions. So again, we're going to see that ball rolling soon. Wouldn't be, if this maintains, I wouldn't be surprised to see planters rolling here in the next week or so once that anhydrous has had a chance to take hold. More Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland, the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you. It's time now for a check of the midday markets here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. On the phone right now with Justin McKinney of Comstock Investments to take a look at the midday market prices. And Justin, what are we seeing so far in the grain markets today?
Slightly lower on the corn here today. We're trading about 3 cents weaker on the old and the new crop. As we head into the USDA report tomorrow morning, funds kind of taking a little bit of caution here as we do have significant long position in the corn. On the commitment of traders report, we had 284,000 longs. That was increased by 55,000 from the previous week. So built quite a long position in the corn, waiting to see what the stocks and acres do tomorrow. Switching over to the soybeans, we're up about 6 3/4 here on the old crop. New crop up 5, kind of piggybacking off of maybe a little bit of that positive biofuel news in the soybean oil being up $1.43 here this morning. Wheat market's pretty well steady to maybe 5 higher on the Chicago wheat. Not a lot of action going on there. Been a little bit slow.
And then over at Comstock with those reports tomorrow, what are you guys expecting to see from the acreage numbers?
Yeah, that's a loaded question there. We're probably going to be somewhere in that 95 range. I think it's a little bit early to really get a heck of a lot worried about the fertilizer. We seem to be able to get things done just in time in this country. So I maybe be a little bit cautious on getting too overly concerned about that.
And then over on the livestock side of things, how are cattle and hogs trading at midday?
Yeah, surprisingly well on those feeder cattle, up $3.40 on the feeder cattle. The fat cattle trading about $1.45 higher. That is, looking at almost $1 off the highs for the day that we put in right off the open as we had that positive cash news on Friday, 238 trading late in Kansas. Kind of supported the open on that, but we've stepped back a little bit. Some gaps up in the market that just slightly above where we're at on those June cattle. I imagine that we'll probably go up and target and take a look at it from there. On the hog side of the world, we're trading down 25 cents on the front month. Summer month still relatively strong, 30 cents higher to 40 cents into the August month. Funds were net sellers on those hogs last week, so we'll see if they step back into the market and buy some of those hogs after that hog and pig report the previous week.
All right, Justin, lots of great information today. For anyone who'd like to get in touch with Comstock and learn more, how can they do that?
Then give me a call direct here in Rochester, Minnesota at 320-589-4345 or on our main line at 712-227-1110.
Your local radio station brings you the pulse of your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network adds specialized ag content to help farmers make informed decisions. From county fairs to national ag news, we're here to tell the story of agriculture to everyone who needs to hear it. Together, we deliver a blend of local community and ag industry-focused information that rural Iowa relies on every day. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
At midday, May corn down 3 3/4 at 4.58 1/4. May soybeans up 6 1/2 at 11.65 3/4. May soybean meal up 1 even at 3.1630. May soybean oil up $1.41 at 68.82. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.50 at 2.40 even. April feeders up 3.45 at 3.6490. April lean hogs down 20 cents at 90.57. April pork cutout unchanged at 103.40. That's been a check of the midday markets here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith reporting.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters as we go back into the marketplace and see what's happening in the cattle and hog markets right now. Both of them had a little bit of a stronger finish to end the week. And Greg McBride of Allendale rejoining the conversation now with Mark Magnuson to tell us what's happening with livestock.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Well, Friday we caught a nice strong move out of the fats and feeders. We did see double or a like a $6 to $8 move in the feeders. We saw a $3 to $4 move out of cattle. We did hear that China had bought about 50% of their quota from Australia, and in their verbiage when they have these trade deals with countries like the U.S., Australia, Brazil, when it comes to beef buying, once they've hit a certain number, they implement a 55% tariff on anything above that for that country. So the market took that and thought it was a great thing, because what in everybody else's mind comes in is that we're going to see maybe some overflow buying of U.S. beef coming from China. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it will happen, but we are starting to think that's the case. Plus, we are looking at slaughter numbers from last week. They were down because of the Greeley plant in Colorado, the JBS plant that's on strike. There isn't expected to be anything that's announced maybe this week on a holiday shortened week. So we're starting this week out on a stronger note. And then you do have the hogs up a little bit to get started here today. And this is a market that seasonally, this is when it does start to come back. So we've seen a sell-off. We had a very nice rally that started about midweek last week and has shifted. We're now looking at the potential of maybe a short-term V-bottom recovery. This is something I've been talking about for a little while, with potential for those spring and summer hog contracts to get back up into the 110 to 112 area. Currently, we're sitting at 107 to 109 in the June through August contracts.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Greg McBride of Allendale, my guest here today. Thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great week.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Your local radio station keeps you connected to your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network provides ag-focused programming to keep your farm business running strong. Together, we bring you the latest markets, weather updates, and policy news. Whether we're in the field or in meeting halls, our team is always out and about gathering the news that's important to you. Powered by Iowa Agriculture, trusted by Iowa farmers. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and of course, all eyes are on this week's prospective plantings report, and of course, the grain stocks report. Will there be revisions? Will there not? There's been a lot of differing opinions on that. And right now, Mark Magnuson's getting one from the folks at Farmers Business Network.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Cody Bills of Farmers Business Network. As we are looking ahead to next week on the 31st, we will receive the prospective plantings report from the USDA, which of course is a survey-based report that lets us get our first real snapshot of the year of what we could expect for acreage in corn and soybeans and the rest of the major crops going into this year's growing season. And Cody, thanks for joining us here today. Wanted to ask you about the FBN report that came out ahead of the USDA's report and a chance to look at some of those projections from USDA. Could you tell us about the methodology of the report and what you learned in this year's FBN planning report?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have thousands of farmers in our network, and every year we send out a text message asking farmers to reply and say, "Hey, tell us what's changed this year between what you planted last year and what you planted this year." And we get over 1,000 plus responses. Some years we've had almost 2,000 responses. This year was over 1,000 responses. It gives us just an indication. And what we're trying to do is really replicate the way that the USDA asks the question, so we can try and get some sort of insight into what the USDA might say next Tuesday. What we ended up doing, well, let me just frame this. Our survey results have really performed nicely when compared to the average analyst guests out there and just the analysts that publish their reports. On average, we're about 40% more accurate for corn acres when comparing our acreage survey and the actual prospective plantings report, and about 7% more accurate for soybeans than kind of the average guess in the field of analysts out there. So we think it's a pretty good survey. And what it showed us this year is corn at 96.9 million acres, soybeans at 84.6 million acres. So those numbers, let's just let those sink in. Though we are smaller, about 1.9 million acres lower than where we were last year for corn, it's still about 2.5 million acres over the average trade guess. A lot of market participants right now are looking to see around 94.37 million acres go to corn, and we're saying 96.9. And for soybeans, we're also on the lower side of expectations. We're expecting 84.6 million acres. That's about 0.9 million acres below the average trade guess. So what we're seeing is just a little bit less aggressive shift out of corn and into soybeans, but still we are seeing a reduction in corn acres from last year and a 3.4 million acre increase in soybean acres.
So Cody, that is very interesting because we've heard so much speculation going into the USDA's report on Tuesday about how many acres would potentially shift from corn to soybeans because of those input prices. And I'm thinking specifically about fertilizer. So could you tell me, does fertilizer factor into your survey at FBN and your planning report?
It doesn't. It would only factor in the way that the farmer would respond to our survey. And I think this is really important. A lot of people are talking about fertilizer could shift acres, but it's a survey-based response. That's what the USDA is giving us, and that's what we did. And I think one thing that we need to remember is that the Iran and U.S. conflict had really only started kicking off at the end of February and the beginning of March. And that's when we were actually doing the survey. And so we actually hadn't seen the cash prices and the increase in fertilizer costs yet. That was just what was projected to happen because of logistics constraints coming through the Strait of Hormuz. So really, I think there's a chance here that you actually that you see the USDA not really able to factor in the increase in fertilizer costs and what that may mean to acreage. I think where you may see that factor in is in the June report after it becomes more apparent in the cash market and farmers ultimately need to make final decisions before they start getting planters rolling.
Cody, thanks so much for the time here today. Always appreciate it, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you, Mark.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com.
With those USDA reports, it'll be a busy day tomorrow, but we will have all of that covered here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. That's all the time we have for today's episode of Iowa Ag Matters. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.